Can you hear that, Thomas?
No.
Yes, you can, because Coates's post-editors and put this lovely ancient Chinese music over the top of us.
Ancient Chinese music? Why ancient Chinese music?
Because we are now 10,000 years ago. We've gone back in time.
Back in the AutoPot system?
Back in the AutoPot system. If you don't know what that is, you're going to have to watch the YouTube show, the NPK show on YouTube. Well, we're back in time. It's 10,000 BC. And we're in the history of cannabis, part 1.
NPK. The NPK show. NPK to all the viewers around the world. You're watching the NPK show.
So, today's podcast is the history of cannabis and hemp. We're going back 10,000 years ago. 8,000 BC, BC stands for before Christ, but it's now BCE, before Common Era, that stands for.
Before what?
Before Common Era. So, 8,000 BCE.
Why is this? Because you're not allowed to say be Christ now?
Yeah, they've changed it to a more universal language, haven't they?
I don't blame them.
Yeah, because
not everybody believes in the Christ story, do they?
No, they don't. So it's before Common Era now. And
who?
Before Common Era, BCE.
Who's that?
Well, the Common Era is.
I thought it was like Common Era. I thought it was a French.
He was a commander of a French naval forces or something.
I thought he'd commandeered or something.
No, and then we've got AD, which is now CE, which is now Common Era. So
I thought that was the two half of the other band. Your AD.
ACDC.
Oh, that was them.
BCAD.
Yeah.
the brothers of ACDC.
Yeah.
No, so if we're talking about 8,000 BCE, then that's basically 10,000 years ago. So
basically it's a long time ago, wasn't it? When all like the
in a land far away.
Was the dinosaurs around then?
No.
Was Egyptians?
Egyptians were a little bit later than this. Is like you're talking about even before Chinese emperors and dynasties. You're talking like a long time ago. This is like pretty much the beginning of human records.
Okay.
So that's why we've gone back this far. So we're talking about the history of cannabis and hemp. This is part 1. Next week's part 2. This is the sort of the ancient to modern day side of things, and then next week it's going to be the modern day history of cannabis from 1935 till today.
Okay.
So that's next week's. So we'll start off with 10,000 years ago from today, and people found hemp cord in pottery, and they found it in one of the ancient villages dating over 10,000 years ago, located in what is modern day Taiwan. So I did a map.
So when it says made in Taiwan,
yeah, they've just because they've been at it since day one.
So everything actually was made in Taiwan, even cannabis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, to be honest, it was they found the pottery in Taiwan, but I found this really interesting. I've done a map about how cannabis is spread around. Cannabis and hemp is spread around the world, and it actually started. The first origins of the plant was in Mongolia, northern Mongolia, and southern Siberia, which is basically Russia. So Mongolia, which is above China, and Russia is where they first identified. That's where they can first trace the plant back to. So cold origins, actually.
Yeah, so
Siberia.
Russia was sticking down on the cannabis?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with the people who found these ancient potteries made out of hemp, started cultivating as well at this date, and started using it as one of the oldest known human agricultural crops.
Okay.
And then I know this is a little bit random, but it was just a sentence I thought was dead interesting. Agriculture is not natural. Sounds mad, doesn't it? Agriculture is not natural. It's a man-made method of extracting food.
Yeah.
It's just mad because you think of farming as natural, isn't it? It's
No.
completely unnatural.
No.
It's a natural thing to do.
No, it's not natural for some geezer to come along to a field, dig it all up with a tractor, put all stuff in it, and then...
But when you walk through a farm and you get that smelly cow shit, horse shit, manure smell, and you feel...
Oh, no, the horse shit's natural.
Yeah, that's all natural, but you feel like you're one with
nature. The horse
are
naturally shitting on the field.
Yeah, and it's being unnaturally spread.
Yeah.
But you feel one with nature when you're around farms, don't you? unless you see big tractors, but it's not natural. So cannabis was one of the oldest known agricultural crops, actually.
Okay.
And Richard Hamilton in 2009 in the Scientific American article on sustainable agriculture said modern humans emerged 250,000 years ago, but agriculture is a recent invention. It literally started 10,000 years ago, and it's there. It says agriculture is not natural to human invention. And this is Carl Sagan said this in 1977, that he said that he believed that marijuana, cannabis, may have actually been the world's first agricultural crop, leading to the development of civilization itself.
Wow. So let me get that into like a simple form, layman's terms. So basically what you're trying to say is somebody's theory, what was his name?
Carl Sagan, very highly respected scientist.
So our mate Carl Sagan, big shout out to Carl. Hope you're listening, mate.
He asked to come on the podcast, but we were fully booked up.
Well, there you go, Carl. So unfortunately,
we will try and fit
we've quoted you in on this. So basically what Carl was saying is that cannabis, hemp, the hemp plant, was not only could have possibly been the first crop that ever agriculturally been developed, or used, but was the foundation, was the initial plant to help us start becoming
what we are today. Yeah, man.
Now that is a very, very interesting theory.
Yeah.
That is an interesting theory. To think that we have only become and evolved to the success that we are agriculturally, businessly,
economically, politically.
Every type of way, shape and form could be possibly down to hemp or cannabis plant.
I have to say as well, I've done about a week's worth of research into this to sort of put it into a nice timeline. But after researching this, I think I'm going to try and find myself a good book on the history of it, because a history of hemp and cannabis, because it is that interesting. The amount of times and ways and means it's been used is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we're going to fast forward. Actually, I found out another quite interesting thing, and it says that cannabis. Where did the word cannabis come from?
Fucking hell, that's a question.
Yeah, it's something that it's one of those questions I was saying to Barry the other day. Does a question ever pop up in your head and you think, you know what, I don't even know where that comes from? You just sort of live your life.
I don't know where does the question?
Well, it comes from ancient, because they had to name it, didn't they?
Well, so obviously everything comes from ancient.
Yeah, it does. So it comes from the ancient Babylonian. Cannabis. I've said it in two words there.
Babylonians.
The ancient Babylonians called it cannabis. Canna meaning stem or stalk.
Yeah.
And bis meaning two of. So it's a stem or stalk with two, it's a two-sex plant. So it's a separate female plant and a separate male plant.
Okay.
So it's a stem stalk with two sexes.
Okay.
And bis in the ancient Babylonian just meant twice.
Okay.
So it's a twice stalk stem. Cannabis, quite interesting. There's other theories about where it came from. Like the Hebrews called it kahuna bus.
Kahuna bus.
Kahuna bus. So that's the ancient Hebrew.
When you go to Morocco, you know, if you've got some shit weed, they call it camel kaku.
Camel kaku.
That means camel poo.
Yeah.
Camel kaku. That means not very good cannabis.
All right.
Because Morocco's very widespreadly known for their pollen.
Yeah.
Well,
that's when Morocco. It looks like 800.
So we have
AD.
A cannabis map here of the world. Right, we've got our map of spreadage.
And it all started, for everyone that's just watching on, Tom's just gone live on Instagram. It actually started in northern Mongolia and southern Russia, which is Siberia, which is just above Mongolia. And it basically just spread around the world like that.
Yeah.
So there's another person that thinks it moved straight across Kazakhstan. So Kush. You know the Kush? Do you know where that comes from?
Yes, the Kush.
The Kush Mountains.
Yes.
In Afghanistan. So that's where that word comes from the Kush Mountains. Because Afghanistan, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, basically, they're pretty close to China, Mongolia.
Yep.
And that's where it went to next. It then moved to Sri Lanka, moved across to the Middle East. Probably the Middle East, we're getting to get onto this on the podcast, but the Middle East did a lot to move cannabis and move hemp around the world because they're the big traders in ancient civilization. Then it spread through to South Africa in 1400 AD, South America, up to the United States. And actually, It's mad because the United States were one of the last places to actually use hemp and use cannabis, like the late 1800s probably. And the UK, actually, we've got this record, 1200 AD. So 1200 AD is when we got
cannabis arrived in the United Kingdom in the year 1200 AD.
CE. AD is the old term, CE, Common Era. So you were in 2000, that was over 1,000 years ago.
So 1,000 years ago, we're saying, cannabis has been
just
in the UK for
1,000 years ago.
Okay.
So back to the ancient times, though, because we're going to get into the UK. Cannabis seeds and oil used for food in China around 6,000 BCE.
Well, to be honest, the Chinese have been do all sorts with plants and medicines and
all the ancient traditional herbal remedies came from China.
They do a lot of horrible stuff as well.
Yes, they do. They eat dogs.
Yes,
but that's not horrible to them. It's just because they're our pets.
No, I've seen a lot of cruel things that's been done in China.
Yeah, did you?
On the
interesting
TV.
Fact.
I watched the pro. In fact, I want to mention this because I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
About the bears.
Bear baiting.
No, they get the bears and they lock them up in a cage and they drain bile out of their stomach.
Yeah.
As some sort of soup or something.
Yeah.
And the bears are alive and it's basically torturing them to the death, and just so they can make some stupid magic potion that doesn't work. So if you condone that type of shit,
don't.
Don't.
Did you know actually, Coach, you can speak Chinese?
No.
He used to work in a Chinese warehouse.
Okay.
All these secret talents just keep popping out.
Yeah. So there you go. But
so,
anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of the first agricultural crops.
Yeah.
It was used in China as an oil and a source of food, the cannabis seeds. And then another 2,000 years later on, 4,000 BC, it started to be used for textiles. So hemp was they managed to take the, the stems, the stalks.
Yeah, the fibres.
They battered it, made it into ropes and fibres.
Well, did you know that hemp fibres is one of the strongest fibres?
Yes.
As well.
Well, that's why I think Carl Sagan, when we said earlier, Carl Sagan said that civilization today as we know it could be attributed to cannabis and hemp because rope, it's salt resistant, water resistant, sails, how many wars got fought because over hemp and because of hemp, because ships could then sail. So Portugal, Spain, France, Britain, all their naval, the navies increased in size and their ability to move because salt resistant, what you call them, masts. They could sail off the sails. Yeah, they could.
The mast is the wooden thing that you
attach the sail.
Oh my God! God help him! Fucking hell! Don't take him sailing with you.
I've been sailing once.
Yeah. Don't go again. Aye.
I've got my sea legs.
Listen, because you get in the bath with your little sailing boat doesn't qualify you to sailing.
No.
Oh.
My mum said it did. She said as long as you've got your submarine, it's a man's.
Well, that's enough about that.
So let's get into sketchy sort of dates from 10,000 up until 2,737 between them and the 10,000 years ago. It's a little bit sketchy. We know that they found cannabis and hemp, but it was Emperor Shen Neng of China.
Emperor.
Excellent. Emperor Shen Neng of China is when the first recorded use of cannabis as a medicine.
So basically, if I'm getting this right, these Chinese were loving the cannabis at the time.
They
were well into this cannabis.
Yes. Well, to be honest, do you know China, the little gits as well? I don't mind saying that because we've only got like 6 subscribers in China.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
you
six subscribers, sorry.
Scrub-cybers. They actually, the little sneaky gits, cannabis could have advanced even quicker, but China found it, and used the hemp paper and kept it as a major secret.
Oh, little sneaky devils.
So it's only like between 2,000 and 1,000 years ago they actually started releasing it, and money became into things, and they thought we can actually make money off trading our secrets, and that's why it took a long time it basically took 6,000 years for it to move out of China.
So basically, China had it for 6,000 years on the D-Lo.
Yeah.
Hey, wow, that's some secret. They kept a secret for 6,000 years. Said, no, you're not getting our cannabis plants. Not getting our strains.
You think your person's bad
You're
over
not
in the
getting
US?
a cutting off us, mate. 6,000 years we've had this in this neck of the woods, and I ain't giving it to you, okay? Don't start.
The guys in the US get a cop on when their mate gets a strain and he won't give it to them. No, give me that strain, give me that gelato, give me that wedding cake. No, it's mine, I found it.
This strain's been in the family generation for thousands of years. They fucking weren't messing, was they?
Heavy. So, but the whole Empress Shen, that's also a little bit mythological. There's no real hard evidence that he actually even existed because modern emperors, and by the way, the emperor, they mean supreme ruler of China.
Well, I'm sorry we can't just wheel him in and go, we are here he is, because it was fucking 6,000 years ago.
No, this Shen was 2,737 years ago, or before Christ.
So what hard evidence do you want to find this fucking
I want to see his bones, don't I?
Well, there you go then.
Now, written evidence. So the Chinese were very good at keeping written transcripts on hemp paper, of course, and Shen doesn't appear too much, whereas the first dynasties, the big rulers, they appeared many hundreds of years later. So, but basically we can half say 2,737 years ago, which is actually 4,737 years ago. That's when cannabis has been used as a medicine.
Okay.
So it's been a long time as a medicine. In 2000 BCE, between 800 and 2000 BCE.
You know what's funny though? It's just not to go off too much, but it's funny how though these plants have been around. They're entitled to us by our earth. Yeah. They've been on the planet for a long, long time. They've been getting used. But all of a sudden, in modern life, it's to be honest, that's where it starts to get. I love the ancient side of things because I'm realizing how far back this plant goes, and then just the uses for it. Now people really made so many uses off one plant, so many uses off one plant. It'd be hard to find another plant with as many uses. But then part 2 next week, when we talk about why it was legal, it made illegal. There's a few different theories. We'll touch on them next week, but it's also super interesting. Okay.
So we're talking like, this is now like 4,000 years ago, bang, or I don't know, because I said cat before, didn't I? And you corrected me and said it's gat.
Gat.
Yeah. So I'm pronouncing this bang, B-H-A-N-G.
Gat.
No, bang. You just can't call everything gat. So I'm going to call it bang. It's his dried cannabis leaves, stems, and seeds. It's mentioned in the Hindu sacred text called the Atharvaveda, which is stands for science of charms, and it's called the sacred grass, Atharvaveda.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot. I've heard a few people call it the sacred grass.
Well, Indians are very spiritual people, aren't they? It's where yoga comes from. Yeah. And it was one of the 5 sacred plants in India, and is used medicinally and ritually as an offering to Shiva, who's the Indian god.
Yeah, well, Shiva Shanti, Shiva seed, Shiva this, Shiva that.
So then we're talking 4,000 years ago, the Indians started clicking here. So we're compared to China.
So we were smoking the weed first.
You know what? Barry asked the same thing. We're going to get onto it. It's hard.
I'm interested who was smoking it.
Well, definitely. I reckon the Chinese definitely smoked it because they used to throw cannabis seeds as part of a burying ritual to help people go into the next life because they realised how good it was at curing people. There was actually, I think we touched on it later, there was actually an Egyptian king who buried himself in cannabis leaves, but he wasn't actually dead. He said, bury me in cannabis leaves and pretend I'm dead. And then he resurrected, in inverted commas, he resurrected himself and said, see what the cannabis can do. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's such a holy, amazing plant. But it was so
he must have been whiffed in off the
coach.
Whiffed in. Yeah, whiffed in on the
off
coach,
the Kush Mountain fucking ganja. Yeah. But it's mad the rituals that they had. So they used to put thousands of cannabis seeds onto the burning pyres when they used to cremate people. And so I think it came from there, the oils and the seeds, as they've breathed them in, they've noticed the sort of intoxicating effects of it. Ooh. And sort of maybe thought, hang on a minute.
This
is
good
a little
shit,
bit good. Where can we get some more of this? So yeah, I think they've started experimenting with actually smoking it.
Yeah, they were like, woo!
Yeah, it's
getting
actually
whiffed
funny.
in here.
We're getting to the time of we'll be on Jesus soon, and that's quite
a
little story.
Well, we can't wait. I heard Jesus was smoking some major amounts of cannabis.
I heard Mary Magdalene and Joseph were off the fucking heads.
Oh, well, we will fucking find out now. Leading on to our investigation. Tally on.
Around 3,500 years ago, cannabis was cultivated in China for food and fibre. The Scythians, they all had really interesting names in the ancient times. The Scythians cultivated cannabis and used it to weave fine hemp cloth, because hemp is actually very, what's the word? Keeps the heat in.
So let's just explain this simply, for fuck's sake. Hemp, what is hemp? Is hemp cannabis, or what is it?
So hemp is cannabis, yes. But
is it the raw material?
It's the raw material of cannabis, but also it's got virtually no THC. It's basically THC free. So basically,
it's a cannabis plant, but without the cannabis in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we do actually touch a little bit on it later. Something I found really interesting, because Carl Linnaeus was a scientist who not found cannabis, but he was one of the people who pushed it forward. Linnaeus Cannabis Sativa L.
Yeah.
You've heard that? Well, that's named after Carl Linnaeus. After
Fucking
that scientist. So we touch a little bit on that later as well. So also in 1500 BCE, it gets a little bit complicated, this, but it's 3,500 years ago. It's also the earliest reference to medical cannabis in Chinese pharmacopoeia. So that's 1,500 years ago. We know for definite it was used as a medicine.
Shut up.
Yeah, 100%. It was in Chinese pharmacy writings that they used it as a medicine to cure all kinds.
Yeah.
Gout, glaucoma, skin ailments, anxiety.
Oh, well, everyone's got 1,000,001 problems they want to heal now. They've got back pain.
Yeah.
They need it to sleep.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's mad, because the Chinese used to use it as a sexual stimulant as well.
Sexual stimulant.
Yeah.
Oh, but how's your father?
Yeah. I think that was just an excuse just to smoke more. But we'll see. It starts to get interesting now as well, around 1500 BC, the BC before Christ. I know it gets a little bit confusing, all this BC, AC, DC shit. But 3,500 years ago, the book of Exodus, the Holy Bible, references holy anointing oil made from cannabis. So holy anointing oil is described in the Hebrew version of the recipe in the Exodus, containing 6 pounds of cannabosum, which is another word for it, for cannabis, cannabosum, a substance identified by respected etymologists, linguists, anthropologists, botanists, other researchers in cannabis. They all agree this means cannabis.
Yeah.
And they extracted into 6 quarts of olive oil.
So I thought you said 6 quarts of weed then?
6 quarts of olive oil, along with a variety of other fragrant herbs.
Oh, okay.
And the ancient anointed ones were literally drenched in this potent mixture. And
basically a quart of kush, quart of haze, and a bit of ched in there.
They used to throw the cannabis oil in there.
Yeah.
And they used to baptise and anoint people. Okay. And people, proponents of cannabis, the people who were obviously massively for it, said that the recipe for the anointing oil passed from God to Moses.
So, to be honest with you, Steve, from what we've been talking about now, it is pretty fair to say that cannabis has been in the world for a long, long time.
Yeah. Definitely.
And there's not just one place that can say, oh, I heard some guy wrote a piece of something about it a long time ago. No. There's lots of different factors and bits of evidence and that all prove categorically that cannabis has been around in our world
easily for 10,000 years.
Easy 10,000 years.
It could have been here for 12 or 14,000 years, but they weren't writing shit down at that time.
Yeah.
They weren't big writers back in the 14,000
Would you
years
say,
ago.
I was going to say, has cannabis been around longer than humans?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Okay.
And that goes back a long time.
Yeah.
Like when I say modern humans as we know today, 250,000 years old.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So plants, and obviously they weren't writing shit down, they were carving shit into walls.
Yeah.
And so plants were plants back then. But used as ancient anointing oils, and they say that God passed the recipe to Moses. So God is an actual user of cannabis.
So God created cannabis.
Yeah.
Where was this stated anyway? What was this stated
in the Bible?
In the Bible.
Yeah. So if we believe Jesus existed and we believe the Bible, then that also means
we're not saying we don't.
That also means that God created cannabis and was intended for it to be used. So it's
God did create
it's
cannabis.
actually anti-Christian now to not use cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for all you Christians out there, go out and do what you're doing with your cannabis because God put that in the Bible for you to say so.
There's a reference there. Exodus 30:20, paragraph 30, pages 22 and 23. It says there the actual recipe for the anointing oil. Okay. I think we should do some anointing later. I think to work at NPK, you need to be anointed every day.
And we'll say God said.
Yeah.
God told me to.
It's funny, actually, because they say the modern Bible, which is the King James Bible, mistakenly changed to the plant calamus. So modern Bibles will say, oh, no, it wasn't cannabis, but it's the translation from like the Hebrew to Latin and our modern day language. They mistranslated it. So it was calamus. They changed the plant. So that's how they half get away from saying the cannabis isn't a religious plant.
Yeah.
And I know I find this super interesting. Mistranslations are massive in the Bible. You know where he said Moses split the Red Sea and he split it and his people walked out? Well, the translation they think was actually a sea of reed. So when Moses disappeared with his Egyptians into a sea of reed, they disappeared because they couldn't find them. Yeah. And it got mistranslated as he split the Red Sea. Yeah. I just find that interesting because it's like, that's legit shit. He could have easily got off into a sea of reeds, couldn't he? Yeah. But he's splitting the Red Sea is a bit fucking far-fetched. But there you go.
Well, haven't you seen me split the River Mersey?
No. Is that you come over here every day through the tunnel?
Yeah, through the tunnel. Bang, I pay £1.70 and it goes woof.
So you're interested in the Egyptians, though, weren't you? That was one of the first things you said. So it's around this time. It's around 1,200 years before Christ that the Egyptians were using cannabis for glaucoma, inflammation, and enemas. And the evidence for this is that cannabis pollen was actually found on the mummy of Ramses II. So he's buried, and they've basically opened up his tomb, done scientific shit on his body, and found cannabis pollen buried with him. So that's more evidence that it's been used.
So that was his little secret stash for when he
moved over to the other side.
Yeah,
it was such a holy thing that you weren't allowed into heaven unless you brought God some cannabis.
Yeah, make sure
it's a bit like you. It's like you don't let us go when we're in other countries like Barcelona. You don't let us onto the boat unless we bring offerings and gifts of cannabis, do you?
No.
In countries where it's legal.
Totally legal.
Like Barcelona.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks' time. Yeah. Backtrack.
Yes. Yeah.
So have you ever heard of this? This is the thing, Bhang, B-H-A-N-G, 1,000 years before Christ, is a drink of cannabis milk and is used in India as an anaesthetic. It's like pregnant women.
You know what? There's a lot of different things that gets used with cannabis nowadays as well.
Yeah.
Like as you just said, milks and teas, and I think they're part of the old heritage.
Yeah.
I think they were the initial foundations, and how cannabis was used rather than the actual smoking.
Yeah.
I think that milk bang or whatever you call it, it was probably one of the
really good medicinally. Obviously, listen, smoking anything is not going to be great for you.
No,
it's a lot better than smoking tobacco. Let's say that, but the actual oils, tinctures, creams, drinks that you can brews, really, really medicinally, very good for you.
Yeah.
And then, so we're moving on now, 700, 600 years ago, before Christ appeared. I have to say
this is before Christ.
This is all before Jesus.
All before Jesus.
Yeah, this is BCE, before Common Era.
So there's major weed about before Jesus turned up, isn't he?
The whole Bible is based on cannabis. That's what I'm thinking about.
They were all stoned out of their minds, weren't they?
Yeah, that's why there's big.
So how many years are we before Jesus turned up?
So right now, we're 600 to 700 years before Jesus turned up.
Okay, so is the dinosaurs around?
No, they went long ago.
They've died.
Yeah.
They've been
but they had a good life.
So we're with the Egyptians.
Yeah.
Are we still kicking it with the Egyptians?
No, we've moved on from the Egyptians. The Egyptians were sort of...
So the Egyptians have been buried.
Yeah.
With all of the pollen, all the cannabis, all of the tombs.
We're now moving more towards the Roman times.
The Romans were on the weed.
The Romans were such a good army. The Romans were such a good army because they used cannabis to heal themselves in conflict.
In battle. So it was like Power Rangers, they'd just go, whoa.
Go, cannabis kush!
Yeah.
And then they'd heal themselves.
So the Romans were using hemp and cannabis?
They'd use cannabis oil to treat themselves. I believe, I don't think I've written it down, but they used to use cannabis leaf to cover wounds.
Okay.
But I don't think it's got any antiseptic effects.
Did the Romans use cannabis in any other type of form?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I've got no sort of evidence to come at you with, but
however,
there was a lot of them.
What I do know is the Romans were very keen on also the byproduct of the materials.
Yeah.
They used a lot of twine.
Yeah.
For building materials, clothing. Cannabis was very prominent in the Roman times.
Yeah, in terms of clothing and sailing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, they had battleships.
Yeah.
Their clothing, their garments. They used the twine. They used the twine to tie on arrows.
Yeah. That was still being used back in the day with the Chinese as well.
All of the, you know, the feathers, the flights on the arrows. They used to tie the twine because it wouldn't rot and it was very durable and it could take any
the beatings that used to, and the Romans basically nearly conquered the world. Really, they had a massive empire. So to say that if anyone says no, they didn't use, it's just ridiculous because they were in control of that much of the earth, that much of the world, that it's highly likely.
So we've got the Romans. Where are we now?
So the Zoroastrian Zendavesta, which is an ancient Persian religious text of several hundred volumes, reveres to bang as the good narcotic. The Zoroastrian Zendavesta, it's Persian religion. And they've got in their religion, not Christianity now.
So is this in Persia?
This is in Persia,
okay,
which is the Middle East. They've referred to.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Good job, me.
Have you watched 300?
Geography teachers? Yeah, I have.
Well, that's.
Have you played Prince of Persia?
No.
See, he doesn't know shit.
They refer to it as the good narcotic.
Oh, yeah, the good narcotics. That's one way of putting it, isn't it?
Yeah. What did you get arrested for? Oh, the good narcotics.
The good narcotics. It's okay. It wasn't the bad ones. It was the good ones. So what were they doing with it?
They were using it as medicine, as an anaesthetic, weren't they? And they were just religious drinks as well. People would just have this as a religion.
I think
religion back in the day was all about incense and smoke.
Would you say it's safe to agree that whilst you've been studying this, that cannabis and religion has quite a few links?
I think it's intertwined with hemp rope.
Intertwined with hemp. Would you be fair to say that cannabis is interlinked with all religions?
100%.
And all races?
All religions, like Hebrew, Christianity, Islam.
Yeah.
The big religions, 100%. I don't know so much. Buddhism, yeah. All this, like the Thai religions that you don't really know much about, I'm not sure. But the big religions, 100%. It's literally, it's in there. 50/50.
Did cannabis ever stereotype against any colour, creed, race, religion? No?
Nope.
So it was used widely?
Worldwide. Spread quickly in terms of the world. Spread very quickly.
Okay. It's interesting, this isn't it?
It's worldwide. Listen, it's not... This is why the argument for cannabis legalization in areas where it's not legal it's like a dunce argument. It's like, if a product doesn't work in your shop, how long does it stay on the shelf for?
Not 5 seconds.
Exactly. And that's just like a product. And when it works, it slowly makes its way around the UK and shops go, oh, this is a good product, we'll keep this. Cannabis must have been a fucking good product because it made its way around the world within... Well, the Chinese kept it a secret, the little bastards. We don't know how quickly it would have gone. But from 2000... when they started releasing the information.
Oh, I've got a
It basically took 1,000 years.
Listen, Rastafarian is a religion, and it's been around for a long, long time.
Yes, Rastafari. You know what? I think that would make a good podcast in the future, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it would.
The religion. We'd have to get a guest on for that, a special guest.
I think we can.
More about
I think we can. I think we could get Slim to maybe highlight it on that.
Could, yeah.
Definitely.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So
we are. We're moving all the way around the world as well. We're not in one location anymore. This is, again, 600 years before Christ. And hemp rope, this is all now proven. We've found it. This is not like...
So we found bits of traces now.
In Russia.
So we're starting to find bits and bobs now.
Oh, yeah, all over the place.
Yeah, because everyone can say, oh, yeah, well, fucking, he said he's seen it there in 10,000... whatever, but now you should actually find an archaeological bits and bobs.
Digs, finding we're finding pollen, we're finding rope, we're finding weapon equipment, everything to do with it. And by the way, cotton that isn't even thought about yet.
Yeah.
Cotton's not even been thought about. So hemp rope appears in southern Russia again, but this is the foundness, but Russia was one of the first places.
Russia's been sticking down on the old cannabis material.
Day dot. It was in Russia, Siberia, which just surprised me because it's cold. I thought it would have originated in the warmer countries, but it actually, Mongolia, which is, as you get obviously further down towards China, gets warmer, but it originated in Mongolia and spread very quickly. And then we've got I love these ancient names, the Scythian tribes left cannabis seeds as offering in royal tombs. So religions that are not in existence anymore offered cannabis seeds and oil.
Yeah, I'll take a load of me kush seeds there.
Yeah, take them to your next life. And then we've got, again, listen, I didn't actually, let me read this out to you. 500 years before Christ, a Scythian couple die and are buried with 2 small tents covering containers for burning incense. Attached to one tent stick was a decorated leather pouch containing wild cannabis seeds. This closely matches the story told by Herodotus. The gravesite discovered in the late 1940s was in Pazrikh, northwest of Tian Shan Mountains in modern-day Kazakhstan. And hemp is introduced into northern Europe by the Scythians. So this is talking about how hemp moved around the world. And an urn containing leaves and seeds of the cannabis plant unearthed near Berlin is found and dated to be about this time. Use of hemp products spread throughout northern Europe. So basically, the year 500 is when it exploded around the world. The Scythians must have been a major army back in the day and just basically moved everywhere.
So they were moving everywhere and taking the seeds or the what?
Seeds, plant matter, stems, stalks. Hemp was a big thing there.
Okay.
And again, that's just more evidence of the found burial sites with cannabis in. Now we're starting to get towards more Bible stuff here as well. So 400 years ago, Herodotus reports on ritual and recreational use of cannabis. So recreational now is the
So
first
they're starting
time.
to use cannabis for their own fun and amusement now?
Yeah, 400.
Okay.
So this is 2,400 years ago.
So is this still before Christ?
Still before Christ.
Okay.
So a long time ago.
So people are starting to use it recreational?
Just for enjoyment, not for medicine, not for religion.
Hey, let's go down the local...
Yeah.
The local...
Tabernacle.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go down the local on our horses and stuff.
And let's go smoke some hemp.
Yes.
Let's go smoke some cannabis.
Smoke some hemp.
So then 200 years, hemp rope appears in Greece. And the Chinese Book of Rites mentions hemp fabric. 100 years ago before Jesus, the first evidence of hemp paper, which was invented in China. But when they say the first evidence, they mean this is the
He's actually got the piece of paper in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what it was been used by the Greeks for thousands of years.
But obviously we didn't have files
of evidence.
Yeah.
So
pieces of paper that was
100 years before Jesus. We actually
old.
were like, oh wow, this has been used for a while.
Yeah.
And then basically 100 from when Jesus was born, so this is 0 to 100 BCE, the psychotropic properties of cannabis are mentioned in the newly compiled herbal Pen Cao Qing. So this is again the Chinese talking about how cannabis affects
trichomes and
and the oils and THC. So they wouldn't have known that it was called THC, but they've known that some plants are highly psychotropic, and some plants are not, and some have more medicinal effects, and some.
Because they've been trialing and testing this and using it in different cultures.
6,000 years.
Yeah.
But then we moved to Jesus, and this made me laugh, and I've underlined this because I wanted to talk about this.
Okay.
30 CE, so CE Common Era, so now we're actually talking about this is 2,050 years ago. Jesus uses anointing oil made from cannabis. Now, remember when I mentioned that?
Oh, whoa. What did you just say? Jesus was on the cannabis?
Jesus was on the cannabis.
You're going to cause murder here?
Listen, I'm not saying anything that I think. I'm saying what the scriptures think.
Oh, so you've got this off the scripture?
Off the scriptures, yeah.
Okay, so go on. Jesus was on the cannabis, yeah?
Well, Jesus so Moses had the recipe.
So Moses was on. Moses was making
had the recipe.
Moses was making them cannabis. Jesus is where the fuck's Mary?
Well, this is the Virgin Mary who reckons that she gave birth to Jesus.
She was smoking cannabis. No wonder she thought she was a virgin.
She forgot.
She forgot she had sex.
Yeah, 9 months previous. She was like, I've never been.
We've nailed it. Mary was smashed out of.
We've nailed it, or Joseph nailed it.
Oh, I don't know.
Joseph definitely nailed
Jesus, Mary got nailed.
We've nailed it. Jesus, whatever. They were all on cannabis. The highly psychotropic shit.
Anyway, I'm only joking. We're not taking a mockery of religion. We do respect religion. However,
of course we do. We love it even more now because cannabis is so
we love it because
I'm
cannabis
actually thinking about becoming Catholic.
Prominent. Yeah.
So the Jesus Christ, and it says the word Christ means the anointed one.
Oh,
the anointed one.
The cannabis anointed one.
Yeah, because they mixed it with olive oil. That was that recipe from Moses. There's some fella that says that Christ was anointed with chrism, a cannabis-based oil that caused his spiritual visions. So when he saw God,
he was off as Barnett.
Yeah, on the good shit.
He was like, "Whoa, this sativa man is really doing me justice." Whoa,
hey God,
hey God. How are you? I'm just going to split the ocean in half here.
Yeah. You know when they said that the three wise kings, back in the day, if you brought cannabis to a young baby,
one of them brought
you were a wise king.
So the three wise kings turned up in one month.
Frankincense, incense and myrrh. Frankincense, myrrh and what was the other one?
Frankincense,
gold and myrrh.
Yeah.
That's the three things.
It was really...
Just cannabis.
It was really silver Rizzler, a clipper lighter... and a bag of kush.
And it was on a basically it was in a bowl, but the bottom half of the bowl was cannabis, and he just covered the top with frankincense. It was like, they're like, what's this? It's like, oh, it's just frankincense, you know, bro. We're just bringing in some frankincense.
Mary's like that with the legs wide open. Fucking hell. Fucking hell, I need a joint after that. I didn't even know I was pregnant.
That God's a heavy one.
They're all sitting in there singing away in the manger.
No wonder no one had let them into the inn. They all smoked, they all stunk of cannabis, didn't they? Like, nah, kids, you stink.
You know what? That's why the Christmas panto's always quite shite. I knew they was forgetting something out, you know. They forgot to get them all whacked on the cannabis.
And fucking, the king that always wanted to kill Jesus.
Yeah.
It's because Jesus wasn't giving them the good shit.
Yeah,
the king had the bad shit.
Jesus, stop giving me that cheese, mate. I want the...
You're giving me the fucking nettle, lad.
Yeah,
Passing me the good shit.
Get me the kush down here, lad, or you're getting offmaned. I'm gonna lock you in that cave. I'm gonna put the big boulder in there, and if you don't give in, that's it. I'm gonna nail you to the cross.
I'm gonna roll your gaff where you keep all your kush.
Yeah. That's what he done. He nailed him to the cross, saying, "Come on, tell me where your gaff is now, lad. Where is it?"
It's like, nah, lad, I'm not giving in. I'm not giving in. Hey, God, why have you forsaken me, lad? Hey, I'm keeping your fucking gaff safe here.
Anyway, no, none of that really happened.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we just got off on a bit of a tangent.
We don't mean to offend anyone. We're just having a joke.
Yeah.
Steve does. He always likes to offend people. It wasn't me.
Right, so back onto Jesus. The ancient recipe for this oil, recorded in Exodus, so there's proof, included 9 pounds of flowering cannabis tops, known as cannabosum.
What?
Yeah. 9 pounds of cannabis buds extracted into a hin, which is 11 pints.
Okay.
11 pints of cannabis oil.
Shut
a
up.
fucking lot. Oh, no, sorry. Extracted into 11 pints of olive oil.
Okay.
So they got 9 pounds of cannabis, extracted it into 11 pints of olive oil with a variety of other herbs and spices. And this mixture was used for anointing and fumigations and significantly allowed the priests and prophets to see and speak with Yahweh.
Yahweh. Listen, if you had 9 pounds of any cannabis oil fucking anointed on you anyway, you'd be speaking Yahweh,
You'd fucking become Yahweh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so, like, we're a little bit animated today. Yeah. I read all this shit. I'm like, wow. All this sort of stuff half starts to make a little bit of sense now,
but to be honest, obviously we're having a bit of a laugh about it. But
it's serious as well.
Yeah, it's serious. And it's relevant to information that's there, available on the internet.
Imagine.
On the internet.
Imagine that Jesus basically had this oil made from potent cannabis.
Yeah.
And he was going around curing
You know what's
people.
funny though? Rick Simpson, mate. Jesus was on the oil before you, lads.
I'm going to call it Jesus oil.
Jesus oil?
Yeah. J-O.
Yeah.
The big J.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to smoke a J.
Yeah.
It comes from Jesus, doesn't he? He was the big J.
Yeah, man.
It's all starting to make sense now.
Big J, man.
But yeah, imagine that you, who's quite a big personality, you can do a lot of shouting and a lot of people will listen to you. Imagine you were one of very few people in the world that were like, hang on a minute, this cannabis oil does shit. I'm going to go round, I'm going to rub some cannabis oil on someone with a skin ailment, and then it cures them. I mean, he gives cannabis oil to people.
I'm just going to go around rubbing the city.
People who are having seizures and epileptic fits, Jesus would come to them. He'd put his palm on the forehead and he'd go, and he'd have cannabis oil on his palm and he'd rub it into the forehead. But doesn't that look boss?
Yeah.
You just with me hand on your forehead. And then all of a sudden, the epileptic seizures start to slow down. Now, we've got scientific evidence that cannabis reduces epileptic seizures and seizures of all kinds. What's to say that people went, oh my God, this must be the Son of God because, look, he's just stopped that person having a seizure. The person gets up and goes, you've cured me. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It makes a lot more sense than having some fucking
It's a possibility.
Powers.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. So that's where we are with sort of Jesus and what happened there.
And if you think back as well, I was going to go back to country and western films. You'd always see in a country and western film somebody would pull up in a truck, like a wagon wheel truck, and it'd be full of like all remedies and healing serums and stuff. Yeah, tinctures and all of that stuff, because that was like very prominent. There was like witch doctors and all of that type of stuff. And I believe hemp and cannabis come under that category quite a lot.
Yeah.
As evolution and things got further.
It's mad because, again, the Chinese kept it secret, so stopped it from getting out there really quickly. Then I can't remember what sort of time it was. You're probably talking the 1300s.
Yeah.
Witchcraft. People didn't like to mess about with plants because if you understood plants back in the day, you were called a witch.
Yeah.
And you'd get killed for being a witch.
So you'd get burnt on the fucking stake.
So if you were starting to, like, if you were looking at growing cannabis or hemp around the time of witchcraft, people just didn't want to be associated with it. So it probably slowed down a lot.
Fucking hell, it's like the time. It's like nowadays.
Yeah. So we're moving on from Jesus. The Samaritans, the construction of Samaritan gold and glass paste stash box. So the Samaritans had stash boxes for storing hashish, coriander, salt, and they found it all buried in Siberian tombs. I hope I've written it down, but I want to mention this before, just in case and while I remember it. The Muslims had a huge part to play in the movements of cannabis around the world. I hope I've mentioned it later on.
The movement, because they were shipping it all out of the Middle East. That's why.
I've got a few points here. This is like over the next 100 years since after Jesus was executed because he wouldn't give up his gaff. The elders, the natural history mentions hemp rope and marijuana's analgesic effects. Plutarch, who's he's quite a well-respected scholar, mentions Thracians using cannabis as an intoxicant.
The Thracians,
have you heard of them?
Yeah,
the 300, was it?
Yeah.
The Thracians and Plutarch. You know what? I'm glad I'm not mates with these people. Fucking half the names are mad to say. Dioscorides, a physician in Nero's army. You heard of Nero? Major general back in the day. List medical marijuana in his pharmacopoeia. So different armies, different religions, different peoples and cultures all listing cannabis as having medicinal effects and using it widely.
So cannabis has got a big history of medicinal properties. Yeah.
And that's, hemp and the medicinal, and then we've even touched on recreational stuff. But 100 years after Jesus, imported hemp rope appeared in England. So they've got evidence of hemp rope in England from then. And then this is legend suggests that Cai Lun invents hemp paper in China 200 years after its actual appearance. So people trying to take credit, like, nah, I invented that hemp paper.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Mate.
No, we had that 10,000 years ago.
The Greeks, very well respected in terms of maths and science and astrology.
Yeah.
Basically, the Greeks back in the day were the major scientists.
And pottery.
Yeah, pottery. And armies, the Greek armies were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Big power. And this is 100 to 200
But now the
years.
banks are not too good.
No.
The banking.
They lost it.
Yeah.
They made cannabis illegal and they just went downhill from there.
Yeah.
That's what
it was.
A Greek physician called Galen prescribes medical cannabis. So the best scholars, war people of their era prescribing cannabis for medicine. And in the East, so this is the Middle East now, they found a list of medical marijuana. Chinese surgeon Huao Tou uses marijuana as an anesthetic. just more and more points of more different cultures, people, religions using it.
You can continuously see, though, a constant pattern, though.
Yeah, a young woman in Jerusalem received medical marijuana during childbirth, and now 500 years after Jesus, a French queen, Amagunde, is buried with hemp cloth. And then the Jewish Talmud mentions the euphoriant properties of cannabis.
So we're jumping from... So just to list some of the places, we've got China, we've got Egypt, we've got Greece.
The Roman Empire.
We've got everywhere.
A little bit in UK.
Yeah, France.
Yeah, the Jewish Vikings, 850 years after Jesus, take hemp rope and seeds to Iceland. Iceland's been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Did they mean the country or the frozen food store?
The frozen food. Oh, is there a country as well?
Yeah, I believe there is a country.
I thought you was talking about the gaff on Weibo.
I was going to say, you can't get cannabis seeds, hemp seeds in Iceland anymore. They must have...
I was thinking, well, I don't know. I'll have to go back down to Iceland there, mate, to have a look.
So this is... Basically, this is like 1900 years ago. Arabs learned techniques for making hemp paper.
Yeah.
1,000 years ago, scholars debate the pros and cons of eating hashish. Use spreads throughout Arabia. So now this is like cannabis butter as a spread for the breads.
Yeah.
Hemp rope appears on Italian ships. And an Arabic physician, Ibn Wahashiyas, on poisons warns of marijuana's potential dangers. So this is the first time
somebody started to say, hold on a second. Cannabis could be dangerous. Yeah.
So maybe now people are starting, because obviously it's not for everybody. Some people who are sensitive to it might see the ill effects. But this is the first time it's ever mentioned.
But then he also might have seen, hang on a minute, everybody's all spaced out of the minds here. That's not too good, that.
Yeah.
I'm going to question that.
Or could this have been the start of the backhanders, the start to see the money comes into things now?
Because this product's been a viable product for a long, long time already now.
Because the Arabs basically brought maths into the world. The maths and I think formula and equations and science are a huge part of it. So maths, money, start to see how financially good this could be for their country. Yeah. Maybe they start to be a bit selfish. So we're now around Persia. Hassan ibn al-Sabah recruits followers to commit assassinations, and legends develop around their supposed use of hashish. And these legends are some of the earliest written tales of the discovery of the inebriating powers of cannabis. So they say the assassins. So this is quite interesting as well. Assassin, roughly translated, hashash, assass. That's where they believe assassin came from, because the assassins, the Persians, who were very good at killing, used to eat the hashish. They called them the hashishans. Did you ever know that?
No, I didn't know that. So assassins are called hashashins.
Hashashins Creed.
And it's because they like hashish.
I think that might have been a Sean Connery impersonation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Hashashins. The Hashashins are here to kill me.
I've come to bring the weed.
So we're moving more towards modern history as we know it. The Persian legend of the Sufi master Sheikh Haydar's personal discovery of cannabis and his own alleged invention of hashish, with its subsequent spread to Iraq, Bahrain, Egypt, Syria, and another of the earliest written narratives of the use of cannabis as an inebriant. Again, it's more and more things of cannabis being introduced by mystic devotees from Syria. So it's becoming, in the ancient times, it was just used. No one had any underlying reasons for using it. Everyone just wants to use it for its powerful effects. I think around 1100, the 1100s, the 1200s, we were starting to see people thinking, how can I use this to the full effect? How can I use this to benefit me and my country? So this is what's happening now. 1200 AD, 1001 Nights, an Arabian collection of tales describes hashish's intoxicating and aphrodisiac properties.
Aphrodisiac. Now,
aphrodisiac. Yeah.
Isn't it something to do with sexual?
Yeah, an aphrodisiac's like oysters. You supposedly
chocolate.
Eat oysters, chocolate makes you want to have sex. It doesn't work. My fucking missus just fat.
When I eat chocolate, I don't want to have sex.
No, I don't. Unless they rub it all over them.
Yeah.
Melt it and rub it all over them.
Dip the toes in it. I mean,
We always just take a little bit too bad.
I watched that on the telly one time somewhere, allegedly.
YouTube. It's got a lot to answer for.
YouTube.
YouTube. That's fucking horrible.
So
we're moving into, this is now the 13th century, so 1300s, 1400s, and it says the oldest monograph on hashish, Za al-Arish fi
What's a
Tarim
monograph?
al-Hashish. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. Okay, wait there. Let's do something really modern day. Okay, Google.
what is a monograph?
So a person who is... Oh, no. It came up Mong. I told you I should have said that. I was just about to read out a person who is stupid or has learning difficulties, and that's a fucking terrible word. That.
Yeah, is that really allowed?
That's in the dictionary. It says British informal offensive.
Wow.
I'm going to say that's a fucking terrible word. That.
Yeah.
Let's try and get the actual word up.
You can't say that word in front of
Stop speaking when I'm trying to ask Google.
Oh, for fuck's sake,
Look,
Google.
Give me the weather.
Well,
now.
sorry, Google. Everyone talks all the fucking time, mate. Do you
Well,
want everyone to be quiet when you're on your phone?
I do when I'm about to ask Google. Well, now the weather says it's raining and it's 9 degrees, so I'll just give that information out. What is a monograph? A detailed written study of a single specialised subject or an aspect of it. So that's what it is, a single specialised book on one subject. So the oldest monograph
So a book on
hashish,
something?
a specialised book on hashish.
Yeah, a book on
appeared in
something.
the 13th. Yeah, a specialised book.
What's the difference from a non-specialised book on something?
A non-specialised book is what you read. A specialised book is what I read. Because I'm special.
It's going to be special in here in a minute when you get a waft of that.
Listen, it's a small and close space. That's one of the rules we came up with. So, Marco Polo, the journeys of Marco Polo.
What have I heard him off?
There's
a program on the telly called Marco Polo, isn't there?
There is. He gave second-hand reports of the story of Hassan ibn al-Sabah and his assassins using hashish. First-time reports of cannabis have been brought to the attention of Europe. So this is the first time. 1271 to 1295, Europe starts going, hang on a minute, what's all this about?
What's going on here?
What's going on here? Kids, let me into the party.
What's all this cannabis malark going on to here?
1300, Ethiopian pipes containing cannabis suggest the herb has spread from Egypt to the rest of Africa.
Yeah.
So the 1300s. The 1378, the Ottoman Emir Sudan, I can't even say the rest of this name, the Ottoman Empire issues one of the first edicts against the eating of hashish. So
so then now the laws are starting to come into place now.
But is this because it was a bad thing, or is it because of these Hashashins? They didn't like assassins, consumed hash.
So they banned
and they just didn't like it.
Okay.
So now they're starting to target people because of what they do. And they don't like that people associated to what they do.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? Everyone just gets categorised, put into a category, and that's that, basically.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit because between the 1200s and the 1500s, it's basically just talking about how good cannabis is and the medicinal effects of it. Okay. More and more people writing about it. This is interesting. You'll like this one. 1533, Henry VIII.
Yeah.
Medieval Britain. Henry VIII fines farmers if they do not grow hemp for industrial use. Thomas, it is...
Sorry, I've sort of unscrewed something. And
it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey.
Yeah, well...
Barry taught me that.
Sorry, mate.
Are you quite all right there?
I'm fine now, mate.
Now, let's move the microphone so you don't have to look like an awkward ostrich.
Okay.
Your microphone.
So, sorry about that.
You're welcome. It's okay. I'll let you off. You've just...
How many pages have you got?
Loads.
Oh, my God.
Henry, we'll skip some of them because a lot of it is just...
I know, because you're just reading sentences off the old fucking...
iPad.
Yeah, the iPad.
But 1500, Henry VIII used to fine farmers if they didn't grow hemp on the farms.
Really?
Yeah, because it was that important. Angolian slaves brought cannabis to the sugar plantations of northeastern Brazil, so it's spread to South America now. They were permitted to plant their cannabis between rows of cane and to smoke it between harvests. So this is South America now starting to use it recreationally.
Okay.
Again, from 1500, more physicians about marijuana's medicinal effects.
So what you're seeing here now, just so I can go.
There's some good points in there that you've just listen. Thomas and technology, dear Lord.
So basically,
dear Lord,
cannabis is starting to gather some pace now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I can see from all the notes is there's more and more sightings and history and
written word. Yeah,
documentation.
A lot more evidence now of it.
A lot more evidence of cannabis being quite global now.
Let's try and skip through the next 500 years, okay? More and more physicians. England begins to import hemp from Russia in the 1600s. William Shakespeare smoked cannabis.
What?
The great English playwright. They're possibly the greatest playwright.
Is that, Stephen, oh Stephen, where art thou, cannabis, thou Stephen?
Yes, exactly that.
And then you say?
In me little sack here.
Okay.
Do you want a 20th or a 50 sack? And then how much of a good playwright do you want to do? So, William Shakespeare, and the evidence is basically they looked into his tomb and his pipes. His tomb. We're not in the fucking Egyptian times anymore. They found his pipes and found oil, cannabis oil and residue in his pipes, along with tobacco and even cocaine.
What?
I knew that'd get your fucking attention.
Who's on the coke now?
William Shakespeare.
Oh,
cannabis, tobacco, and cocaine.
So Shakespeare was on the Charlie.
Yeah,
he
smoked it.
He smoked crack.
He smoked it. They found residue of cocaine in his pipes.
Oh my God! So that's quite interesting, isn't it?
It is. I knew that'd spike you.
You know what though? I reckon. See the funny thing about drugs. Drugs have been in our world since we have.
Yeah.
Because it's the makeup of our world.
Yeah.
The same way we are. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't surprise me. Like opiates, all types of drugs, especially like funguses from magic mushrooms. I know they're a major part in like tribal towns and villages all across the world. I've seen what's that geezer who always goes and does the shows and he goes and lives with them? He's a reporter.
I know you're
good one,
actually.
Really good one.
He's missing, you know.
What?
He's missing, and I can't remember his name.
What is it?
Coatsy. Yeah, find out his Google this British explorer missing in jungle. He's missing, bro. He's like 2 months into his expedition, and he should have been back home by now, and they haven't found him.
Shut
up. He's gone missing, bro.
He's dead.
Probably is. And he's a major. He knows his shit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's heavy. I seen that in the news a few weeks
ago,
actually.
Well, I've seen him go to fucking like tribal villages, and they've accepted him in, and he say to him, the only way we can fully accept you in blah 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 is by doing the ceremony where the spirits, the body finds the spirits. But basically what's going on is they're either giving them DMT or they're giving them magic mushrooms
any
or
type
something.
Of plant.
Making a tea, whatever, boom. He's away with the fairies for like a day, and then that's it.
And then he's in there.
That's it, yeah.
And he can communicate to it. Benedict Allen, that's him. He's missing, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Major explorer. Oh, has he been found now? Coachy's saying he's been found. I hope so, because I like him as an explorer. The 1600s. We're now in the 1600s.
Yeah, let me come back in 1 second. Go on, carry on, Stephen.
So, in the 1600s, in Jamestown, settlers, what's British explorer Benedict Allen alive and well in Papua New Guinea. Thank God for that. Yeah, he went missing. He probably on a bit too much DMT for a little bit. But 1600, Jamestown settlers began growing the hemp plant for its unusually long, strong fibre, and basically started using it to make ropes and sails and clothing. So it's about the 1600s that they started using it as industry and started improving their civilizations from it. Burton's And Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy suggests cannabis may treat depression, more evidence of its medicinal use. Between 1600 and 1700, the use of hashish, alcohol, and opium spreads among the populations of Constantinople and becomes a major trade item between Asia and South Asia. Then we're moving forward into the 1745. George Washington grew hemp. And in 1753, this is what we were talking about earlier on, Carl Linnaeus classifies cannabis sativa. So if you ever see cannabis and it says cannabis sativa L, then that's who it's named after, Carl Linnaeus, who actually classified it as cannabis sativa. 1764, medical marijuana appears in the New England dispensatory. So New England bitches had the first dispensaries. Kentucky began growing hemp. Medical marijuana appears in New Edinburgh dispensary. So Edinburgh, we had dispensaries as well. Napoleon, yeah, it is an interesting one. Can Thomas hear me out there? Coatsy. Oh, he's had to go and see a customer. Hey, it's about time he did some work, isn't it? I wondered what he nipped out for. Well, this is quite interesting, this for the people listening and watching. We've got 1 minute 53 remaining. So if you're watching live on Thomas's feed, I'll finish off on this for you. Napoleon discovered that much of the Egyptian lower class habitually used hashish. Soldiers returning to France bring the tradition with them, and he declares total prohibition. And that was 1798. So I read a story that Napoleon was attacked by an Egyptian prince or somebody part of the royal family, and he was nearly assassinated by them, by these assassins, these hashashins. And when he got back to France, he believed that because these assassins used to eat hashish, that was the reason that they tried to attack him, not because he was a French prick. I'm not saying he was a French prick, but obviously the Egyptians thought he was because he was attacking their country. And so he banned cannabis in France, and that is pretty much the start of the tale of prohibition, 1798. And basically, you can all blame Napoleon. So on Thomas's Instagram, he's got about 50 seconds left. And so for everyone that's been watching on Top Cropper's Instagram Live, thank you very much for watching the podcast with us. I know Thomas has just been through some of the comments. You do love the comments. Hydro to grow. Who was on the brown? I don't know, mate. I don't know. A lot of people probably. It probably had a lot of history of medicinal use. Everyone on Instagram, thank you very much for watching. If you want to watch Rondo saying fuck Napoleon, yeah, fuck Napoleon, the small fucking left-armed prick. Everyone watching on Instagram, thank you very much for tuning in. If you want to listen to the rest of the podcast, tune in on Sunday. And see you all later. Bye-bye. So that was Instagram. Thomas's Instagram is now finished. So, yeah, interesting point on Napoleon there, the little bastard. He was probably kickstarted the whole prohibition. In 1800, cannabis plantations flourished in Mississippi, Georgia, California, South Carolina, Nebraska, New York, Kentucky. And also during this period, smoking hash was popular throughout France and to a lesser degree in the US. Hash production expanded from Russian Turkestan into Yarkand, which is Chinese Turkestan. So even though Napoleon didn't like it, the people in France were loving it. They loved to smoke the old hash and consume it, even though Napoleon was against it because he nearly got murdered. Stupid bastard. Should have had his eyes out, shouldn't he? Then between 1800 and 1900, Antoine Sylvestre de Sacy, a leading Arabist, suggests a base etymology between the word assassin and hashassin. Subsequent linguist study disproved this theory. So there's some people that believe that assassin comes from hash and other linguists that believed that it didn't. You've just missed out on a really good story there. Basically, I've said bye to everyone on your Instagram.
Why?
Because it goes off after an hour.
Does it?
Yeah. You only get an hour live.
Sure.
So I said bye to everyone for you.
Okay.
And I said thank you very much for tuning in. If you want to listen to the rest of the podcast, come in on Sunday.
Okay.
Listen to this though. Sorry to the people listening because I know Thomas will love this one. 1898, Napoleon's in Egypt and somebody tries to assassinate him. Yeah. An Egyptian hashashin. So he knew that the assassin consumed hash, and he believed that it was the hash the reason why they tried to assassinate him. So he blamed cannabis, marijuana, hash on the fact that they assassinated him. He went back to France and started the era of prohibition. So we could probably lay a lot of the blame on Napoleon for the start of people thinking that it was bad. Yeah, so fuck Napoleon is what some of the comments on your Instagram were saying.
Okay.
Burn Napoleon. It's like, it's a bit too late, he's dead already. But we're in the middle 18. People get good. Throw it back on for them. People texting, messaging Thomas fuming because the podcast went off and they were watching it. So, you're going to go live again?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Thomas had like 2 or 3 messages there fuming because they got cut off.
Yeah.
So, all right, we've brought you back in. You can watch live again. So, yeah, Napoleon, the little prick, he started the prohibition, the start of prohibition.
So hang on a minute, what? So what did Napoleon do again? Sorry.
So you went out, and thank you for sorting that customer out. It's about time you did some work.
Oh, well,
Napoleon,
yeah,
in Egypt,
yeah,
got attacked by an Egyptian assassin, and you believe that because the assassins in Egypt used to eat hash, that's the reason why they attacked them. So he went back to France, banned hash, banned cannabis, said it was bad, and basically 1898 to start. No, sorry, I've got that date mixed up there. 1798 is when it started, the prohibition. The prohibition seed.
Oh, okay.
Started to.
So they started planting the seed to say cannabis was a bad property or whatever.
Yeah. Said it caused assassins. Eat hash if you want to be an assassin.
Yeah. If you don't want to get assassinated, we're going to ban cannabis.
Yeah. 1840 in America, medicinal preparations with a cannabis base are available. Hash is available in Persian pharmacies. So it's now widely known around the world. Cannabis is medicinal. You know, like you just go to the cupboard for a bit of paracetamol,
yeah,
or a bit of ibuprofen for that really bad migraine.
Yeah.
People used to just go pharmacy. I've got a bit of cramps. Can I have some
just
cannabis,
get some
please?
of the cannabis there, mate, off the shelf.
Just as you'd go to your pharmacy now and get paracetamol.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
1840, this is how widely, this is how much it was accepted.
So we're talking, what, 200, 300 years ago?
1840, just under 200, 880 years ago. 180 years ago, Queen Victoria used cannabis to help her with the menstrual cramps. So she was...
she had the shit?
No, menstrual cramps. Basically, when she was on.
Oh,
she had the cramps, didn't she?
Yeah.
So when she took cannabis to relieve her.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was because of we can thank the Irish physician. That's easy for you to say. The Irish physician O'Shaughnessy publishes cannabis research in an English medical journals to say about the medicinal effects. Queen Victoria goes, I'm going to take some of that and helps prevent some.
So he's the
menstrual
Queen.
cramps.
The Queen's like, oh. Tally-ho!
One of the most powerful queens
I've got the
of all time.
I've got the cramps this month. Time of the month, I've got the cramps. So, going to put my feet up and have a whiff.
Yeah. Put one's feet up and have a whiff.
Oh, tally-ho!
1850, cannabis added to the US pharmacopoeia. So, pharmacopoeia, basically a list of medicinal ingredients that you can consume. 1850. Now, between 1850 and 1935, it all went tits up. Massively went tits up for cannabis.
Yeah.
So it was published in the pharmacopoeia as having medicinal effects. And between 1850 and 1915, marijuana was widely used throughout the United States as a medicinal drug and could be easily purchased in pharmacies and general stores.
So this was 1850, yeah?
Yeah.
How long
between 1850 and 1915, it wasn't even
65 years?
What, 460? Yeah.
465 years then.
Yeah. So it's about 60. It's about 65.
So when you think about
it,
when you actually think about it, cannabis has actually only been like frowned upon, banned
properly since 1935,
which is a very, very, very small.
Which is also
time.
65, roughly 65 years. Isn't it? Well,
which is fucking
75 years.
Is a stone's throw compared to how long it's been around on the planet.
Yeah.
Accessible, used, viable, traded.
Madness. Since people started to think, since like the Industrial Revolution, since the rich since it wasn't just kings and queens that were rich and barons. Now, because of industry, a lot of people started to get rich. A lot of people started to see opportunities to get rich.
So the quest for money starts coming into play now.
The root of all evil, money, which is printed on paper.
But it's also going to get it's also going to get interesting because we're going to get closer into our era.
Our era where we know.
Yeah, but at some point, we know that companies had patents in place over that are 50 years old.
Yeah. 20 years after it was made illegal, pharmaceutical companies were still looking at the medicinal effects.
Yeah.
And we're like, even though it's been made illegal, we know that it does this, this, and this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna basically make money. Because when it does be made illegal...
There's an interesting comment there.
It was going to stop the cotton market from going under. Yeah, that's we touch on that in a minute. It basically was the cotton industry, immigration.
Yeah.
Napoleon started all of the seed of doubt about cannabis.
Yeah.
All led to essentially corrupt US people.
Corruption's a big part of it.
It's the biggest part of making it illegal.
Yeah.
But building up to that though, this is the build up. 1854. No, Napoleon. 1798, sowed the seed of doubt.
Yeah.
Move forward to 1854.
Yeah.
A guy called Whittier writes the first American work to mention cannabis as an intoxicant.
And just so everybody knows, we have actually got our very own DeLorean. We did actually get in the DeLorean today and yesterday, and we went back in time.
Yeah.
And we got all this data and research. I just wanted to add that in. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. So Whittier says cannabis is an intoxicant. So it's starting to move from medicinal, recreational. Intoxicant sounds a little bit more, whoa.
Oh, that's not good. You don't want to be
intoxcated
by
a toxin,
no.
do you?
You can see regulations and laws starting to come along here now, can't you?
What happens next? 1856.
1856.
The British.
Yeah.
Me and you.
Okay.
Hello.
Talia.
Hello, it's the British are here.
Hi, the British have found
we own
cannabis.
We own India, who grows a lot of cannabis and a lot of hemp.
Really?
And we're not making enough money from it.
Seriously?
So we need to tax the Indians on their cannabis and hemp trade.
Okay, let's do that. Tally ho.
1856, we started taxing India on their cannabis and hemp.
Fine, thank you. We'll have that.
Called ganja and charas.
Ganja and charas. We'll have that also.
1890, the Greek Department of Interior prohibits importance.
So what was this, the taxation of the product coming into the country?
Exactly.
Okay, so if anybody on the Docklands was importing all of this stuff, which Liverpool was very, very prominent at the time because our Docklands was...
Unfortunately, got a bad history.
Yeah.
It was a big part of the slave trade.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't like to mention that shit because it's fucking a shit part of Liverpool's history. But yes, major.
It's a big shit part of everybody's history, though. Yeah. So I don't think anybody was just,
it's everyone's shit history. Isn't
it?
It's
everyone's because history's all of ours.
Yeah.
And so some people's heritage done shit things in history, and some.
But it was a big port, major port, because it was a major trade between America. So there was a lot of money being started to get made. 1890, Greek department inhibited the importance of it, the cultivation and use of hashish. It was then made illegal in Turkey. The chief physician to Queen Victoria prescribes medical... So it was made illegal in Turkey. And then Sir J.R. Reynolds, the chief physician to Queen Victoria, prescribed medical marijuana. She just took it for a cramps. Now her doctor is saying, you need, like, this is
you've got to have this. Yeah.
Okay. But then you start to think, is he prescribing it to because he knows of the medicinal effects, which he was right, or because he's starting to make money from it because it was taxed?
Yeah.
This is where it starts to get interesting. The India Hemp Drugs Commission report is issued, 1893. 70,000 to 80,000 kilos per year of hash is legally imported into India from Central Asia. 1906.
Yep.
The 1900s.
The 1900s now.
It's getting closer. In the US, the Pure Food and Drug Act is passed, regulating the labelling of products containing alcohol, opiates, cocaine, cannabis, and amongst others, which is a good thing. People wants to know what was in the bottles.
Yeah.
Early 20th century, now this is the 1910. Still, smoking hash was
so we've
very
gone past
popular.
the First World War now?
Just before the First World War.
Yeah.
First World War, actually.
It was 1914, wasn't
Yeah, it was 1914 to 1919. Actually slowed down the prohibition because it was going to be made illegal.
I was interested on the impact of what that would have because
slowed down the prohibition.
Because trade.
The hemp rope was still active. The trade, people still needed money, so it slowed it down. It probably would have excelled a lot quicker. But 1910 was basically everyone's still smoking hash in the early 20th century.
Yeah.
Gets to 1910. This is a very, very important turning point for prohibition. The Mexican Revolution. So the Mexicans had a revolution, and it caused a lot of Mexican immigrants to be introduced to using it recreationally, and a lot of them.
It's a proper interesting podcast, this though, isn't it, lad? It's mad.
It
is mad, isn't it? Because I didn't know any of this stuff. You've done all of the research for this one, because it's your topic here. It was your topic that you engrossed in.
But they started using it recreationally, because they'd already been using it medicinally. They started using it recreationally after the Mexican Revolution. A lot of Mexicans started making their way into American society. They wanted to move out of Mexico.
Which is still prominent now.
Yeah. Now, what happens when a new culture comes into your country?
They also bring new things with them.
Yeah, and what does the population tend to do? Probably through media. They tend, I'll say it so we don't draw it out. Fear of change.
Yeah.
Fear of new people.
Well, everybody fears change, don't they?
The fear of new people. There is a word for it, but basically racism.
Yeah.
Pure racism to the Mexicans. Again, this is the 1900s. The slave trade was still pretty rife.
Yeah.
So racism was high. Mexicans put in the same bandwagon as them, and they brought in cannabis recreational to the US. Now people, this is where sort of the marijuana name came in.
Yeah.
We don't really know where marijuana came from, the name of it, but cannabis had been around. The word cannabis had been around for 8,000 years.
Maybe that was the interchange of
exactly
of the bad name. It's marijuana now.
Yeah, it's marijuana. This is the new thing.
Yeah, this is the new thing out to hit the block.
Not
Before
cannabis.
it was all cannabis.
That was medicinally.
And cannabis and whatever it was. Now this is the
Mexican cannabis. This is marijuana.
That's that super skunk stuff.
Yeah, and we don't like it because we don't like the Mexicans coming into our country.
Yeah, and so bringing all this cannabis and marijuana.
We don't like it.
No.
This is the start of the end for
legislation
cannabis.
And prohibition now, I think.
It's coming along. The start of the end for cannabis. 1914, 4 years after the Revolution, the Harrison Act in the US defined the use of marijuana. See how the name changed from cannabis to marijuana?
Yeah.
It's not defining cannabis, it's defining marijuana, amongst other drugs, as a crime. 1914, it starts to become a crime to trade and use cannabis. This is a long one. This is quite interesting. 1916, so 2 years after the Harrison Act made it a crime, the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, still prominent today, Chief Scientist Jason Merrill created paper made from hemp pulp, which they concluded was favourable in comparison with those used with pulp wood. And then it goes on, blah, 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 pulp about wood, trees being cut down, chlorine, bleach being used.
Hold on 1 second. I've just got a comment then. Yes, bro. What colour was the hat?
What colour is this hat?
No, the hat that I gave you. Was it a red one?
Have you been giving away hats again?
Yeah, I think so. I always give away me shit, don't I?
Yeah. So, mass production of cheap newsprint from hemp had not developed in every country.
My bro. Yes, lad. Hey, the kid's a boss. Hey, this kid's a boss. Yeah, man. Ha. It's right, lad. Go on, sorry. Anyway, carry on.
So I've lost where I'm up to now. Mass production of cheap newsprint of hemp had not developed in any country. Hemp was a relatively easy target because factories had made large investments to handle cotton, wool and linen, but there was relatively small investments in the hemp production. So this is where cotton starts to come into it now. And paper. People wanted to use paper from cut down trees. There's the wood industry. There was the cotton industry. There was a lot of money for people to be made that weren't involved in the hemp industry. 1915 to 1927, in the US, cannabis begins to be prohibited for non-medical use. So it's still allowed in certain parts for medicinal use. Prohibition first begins in California, 1915, Texas, 1919, Louisiana, 1924, and New York in 1927. The 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution banned the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol and positioned marijuana as an attractive alternative, leading to an increase in the use of the substance in 1919. So you can still also see the tug of war between people who are like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
It's better than alcohol. It can be used in industry. And then you've got the people who wanted the money. No. Alcohol's better because I can make alcohol. I can make money from it.
Yeah.
No. Cotton's better because I own the cotton fields. I own the people that pick the cotton. Slave trade still rife. I want my money. There's a bit of a tug of war going on in around 1919, 1920. Then we just, from the 1920s, we just see more and more people cracking down on it. It was started to be smuggled into Egypt from Greece. 1924, good year, Russian botanists classify another strain of the plant called Cannabis ruderalis. Ooh. So this is where the different strains are starting to be identified. Lebanese hashish production prohibited in 1926. 1928, cannabis banned in Britain. 1930, Chinese exports legally into the northwest frontier basically started to get more taxed. It was harder to move it about. 1933, this is basically the end. The US Congress repealed the 21st Amendment. Now, US Congress, who runs the US Congress? Who is on the Congress? People.
Yeah.
What can people be? What can happen to people? They can be swayed by money. Money is now becoming a big thing around the world. It ended alcohol prohibition. 4 years later, the full prohibition of marijuana became into full effect in 1933. In 1935, a very sad time, Chinese government moves to end all cannabis cultivation and charas. Hashish production became illegal also in Chinese Turkestan. So 1934 was a bit of a shit year for the cannabis.
So basically,
plant.
for like 3,000 years, it's been getting used.
And literally over a period of 30 years, it stopped. We're finishing the podcast on this date, 1936, American propaganda. The film Reefer Madness was made. Let me just repeat this. The film Reefer Madness was made to scare American youth away from using cannabis. And then 1937, this is what we'll finish on. US Congress passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which criminalized the drug. In response, Dr. William C. Woodward, testifying on behalf of the AMA, the American Medical Association.
It's a bit of a mouthful, that one.
It was. Very highly respected journal. Told Congress that the American Medical Association knows of no evidence that marijuana is a dangerous drug, and warned that prohibition loses sight of the fact that future investigations may show that there are substantial medical uses for cannabis. His comments were ignored by Congress. A part of the testimony for Congress to pass the 1937 Act derived from articles in newspapers owned by William Randolph Hearst, who had significant financial interests in the timber industry, which manufactured his newsprint paper. He wanted to ban hemp and cannabis, making it illegal.
Yeah.
That was the end for cannabis, bro. 1937, they passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which
well, you know what,
stopped
bro?
everyone.
That was proper, very, very informative, that lad.
That was part one.
That was good.
Shit's about to get messy in part two.
What's going to go on in part two? We've got part two next week, and basically, we haven't got that much long left, so we covered, how many years have we covered there?
We've just gone back in time 12,000 years ago.
So we've just went back in the DeLorean 12,000 years, and
we've just covered.
Cannabis was around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Next week, we're only going to use
literally covering 80 years.
80 years, and there's a big change. A lot of different things are going to be spoken about, and it leads us up to where we are to present day.
Yeah. And we'll finish on this note as well, just to sort of put a full stop to the whole madness of it. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed on hemp paper. Was written on hemp paper.
So the actual declaration was wrote on cannabis form paper?
Yeah, the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
Independence. What are we not allowed to be today?
Independent.
And
on that bombshell,
I have been Stephen.
And I have been Thomas.
You've been listening to podcast 140, part 1, The History of Cannabis.
Make sure you check us out next week. We have part two.
Part two? You and your toes.
Me and my toes. You and your
part toe.
So next week we've got part 2.
And
present day cannabis.
From 1937 up until 2018. Present day cannabis history.
And that's us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Go and say, killing it, fam. Go and say, killing it, fam. Go and say, killing it.